Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Diego Granados, and I'm currently a product manager at Microsoft. I'm really excited to be here with all of you guys today on Product School to talk about the do's and the don'ts when applying to product management roles. And so, with that in mind, let's kick it off with a presentation. All right. So, like I was saying, I'm currently a PM working in AI and machine learning. And more recently, I also created a YouTube channel called PM Diego Granados, where you will find PM advice and interview prep. And I'll talk more about it later on. Now, in this presentation, we'll talk about a couple of things. First of all, I'll share with you who am I and a little bit of my journey of getting into product management. Then we'll talk about your resume and what are the things that you can do or that you should be careful with to increase your chances of getting that call back when applying to PM roles. Next, we'll talk about how important it is to actually do some networking on LinkedIn. I'll show you how you can do some professional stalking to actually find who's hiring. And finally, we'll end this presentation with giving you some ideas on the things that you can do to actually start transitioning into product management and be able to craft better stories and just prepare, better for your interviews and your resume overall. So, who am I? I was born and raised in Mexico City, and that's where I spent most of my life. I studied electric engineering for undergrad, and I thought I was going to be working either creating computers or new types of cell phones or even coding. But it turns out that coding was not necessarily for me. I spent the next 5 or 6 years working actually on a business intelligence consulting firm. And it makes a little bit of the best of both worlds. On one hand, I was still close to engineering. I was still doing some, queries to databases and putting all these dashboards together. And on the other hand, I was learning from customers and learning from these engagements and learning about what were some of those customer pain points. The problem for me was that after finishing a project, we will turn in the results and we would not see what would happen after that. And I wanted sort of to continue the projects and implement some other things. And that's what drove me to think of what was next for me. And for me, I realized that coming from an engineering background and having this interaction with customers, I wanted to learn more about business. And that's how I decided to start my journey into my MBA. Up until this point, I had no idea that product management existed. So when I went to business school in Duke University, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I for once I thought I was going to be in a top tier consulting firm, but as soon as I started talking with some of the students there and more professionals in the industry, I learned more about product management, and I fell in love with the role. And I wasn't sure how to transition there, but somehow, either by hard work or a little bit of luck, I managed to get an internship at Cisco as a product manager. And after my second year in business school, I actually decided to go back to Cisco, and I had a great experience. I was working on non very traditional Cisco stuff. So I was actually working on a mobile app and a web platform to track devices over the network, pretty cool stuff. And after 2 years there, I decided that I wanted to explore something a little bit different, something not in the networking or IoT industry. And that's when I decided to start my transition into Microsoft. The funny thing is that when I joined Microsoft, my team got reorged, and the team that I applied to, or the project that I was supposed to do when I joined Microsoft initially, became actually an AI group at Microsoft. And so now I work on AI and machine learning, which is pretty awesome, but it's also a lot of learning that I have to do myself. And more recently, and during these times, I've been creating a YouTube channel to help others who, like me, when I joined business school, had no idea about product management or struggled to get resources to get into PM. So go and check it out if you are interested in more of product management. So after all of this time, there's a couple of things that I have concluded, and that is people should care a little bit more about their resume. Over the last 3 or 4 years that I've been a product manager, I've received and read hundreds of resumes, and I see the same mistakes coming up over and over and over and over again. And sometimes people wonder why they didn't get that call back, and a lot of it has to do with you just don't have a good enough resume. And it's not just about the achievements or that your resume should scream product management. It's a lot of the little details, and we'll cover those, so don't worry about it. So first of all, why you should care about having a good resume. Well, there are tons of studies, and this is just one of them. But doing an eye tracking study, they find out that when the recruiters or the hiring managers would scan these resumes, the most common things among the worst performing resumes were it was very cluttered when and how it looks. There was not enough white space to give it some breadth so that when they are scanning the resume, it would be easy to read. Another point is that there was a poor layout. So it was very, very difficult to distinguish what were the different sections like education or work experience or, other information. And the last thing, it was the presence of keyword stuffing. Yes, adding keywords can help you go through the automated system, but at some point, somebody's going to review your resume. And if they just see the keyword stuffing, meaning just adding keywords for the sake of adding keywords, they're going to think that you basically don't have the experience. All you're doing is trying to pass the automated system. So you have to be very careful with the keyword stuffing. So, what are the things that we need to do to improve our resume? Well, let's start with the format. The format is about, my recommendation using something simple. Use either just, simple colors, one or two, or just go black and white. Remember that you're applying to a product management role, not a designer role. So while we are sometimes tempted to try to do something flashy, it doesn't always play in our favor. And remember, yeah, it's not about the design. I've seen very colorful and some kind of crazy resumes, and in the end it's too distracting, and when you're trying to get to the information, sometimes there is just not enough space, or it actually doesn't stand out because there's just so much going on in that resume. Another thing is that I don't recommend adding a photo. It's honestly not necessary anymore. And what ends up happening is that the photo takes a lot of space, and that space could actually be used in other things like more achievements or more accomplishments or more impacts and more skills. So don't put a photo in your resume. It's actually not needed. And don't try to reinvent the wheel. That's just my personal advice. Go and find some templates. Like Canva has great sources for templates that you can customize. And also, if you think of it, a lot of MBAs get product management roles, and part of it is, the cleanness of the resume. So just, search online for MBA resume templates, and I'm sure you'll find plenty from tons of business schools, and just, copy the same format. This is another problem that I've seen often. We tend to just put all of our experience there, and I've received resumes from, all the way to 2 pages to 10 pages of a resume, and it's just crazy trying to think of reading all of those little details. Think that a recruiter will receive hundreds of resumes in a week. You cannot expect them to actually pay a ton of attention to one resume that has, more than one page, unless you have more than 10 years of experience. If you have more than 10 years of experience, it's totally okay to have more than one page on your resume. Another thing that I've seen is that people try to trick with, the margins or the font. And what ends up happening is that when you print the resume, it doesn't print well, or the font is incredibly small and you actually have to zoom in a lot on your computer. This is not about just adding more things for the sake of adding more things. This is make sure that your resume is clean enough, that it has enough space, that, the fonts and the margins, that everything is presented in a good way that just makes it easier for the recruiters and hiring managers to go through your resume. Remember that you want them to look at your achievements and accomplishments and the things that you bring to the table and to the team. You don't want them to pay more attention to the details of the colors or whether the font is too small. And so just be careful with a few of these things. Up to this point, you might think, well, these are very, very basic, advice, and these are just very basic tips that I'm giving you. However, very recently I actually did something for my YouTube channel where I asked for volunteers to give me the resume. I will review them online, and out of 25 resumes, almost 20 had some, if not most of the mistakes that I've seen that you are seeing today in this presentation. So let's do a little bit of a breakdown of the sections, because this is also something that I've seen not everybody has it very clear. Starting with the basics, obviously your contact information, and then things like LinkedIn, GitHub, any other links that you have are completely optional. And like I said before, you don't need to add your photo. Next is add your education. Incredibly, you would think that everybody would add that, but not really. Some people actually don't list their education, don't list the year they graduated, and they don't add any other information. And this is where, if you're a student, this is where it's your chance to shine through all those projects and all those, all the teamwork that you've done for whether it's something at school or outside school. And if you are in a master's degree or an MBA, or simply if you have X number of years of experience, definitely add your college or your master's or your PhD. It's super important. And add any extracurricular activities that you have. The work experience. This is where I also see many, 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 many mistakes. Of course, start with your most recent experience and show the progression in the role. Like, for example, I was promoted from consultant to senior consultant, and you definitely want to show that. Don't compact everything into just the latest role, because you want to show how you've been progressing through the years. And one of the most controversial ones is, do not add your job description, add your accomplishments. What I mean by this is that don't add something like, this is just an example, let a development for a customer website. A lot of people do this, and that's wrong. What you want to show in your resume is the accomplishment, and you want to show the impact of that accomplishment. So how do you do that? Well, start with verb in past should be obvious at this point, but you can do something like led an engineering and marketing initiative to automate the customer registration process, and then the impact, reducing processing time by 60%. Not everything is measurable, and maybe you can't measure everything in your resume, but try to do as much as possible. So in the end, one or two, you don't have some impact, that's okay. But don't make it the other way around, where just one or two have an impact. And again, don't list your job description. You want to make sure that you actually list your accomplishments. And then finally, just add some additional information. This is about your interest, skills, certification, volunteering. This is about you, and trust me, you are more than just your job. All of this will be not only, things that will help you through if there's an automated system or if they're looking for specific skills, but also talking points in an interview. You never know when they are going to share something in common with you, whether it's, a new language that both of you are talking, or an interest or a hobby, or even, some rare skills, or some rare, coding language that you never know. And it's always good to have those topics of conversation through an interview. So definitely add those. Another thing that is super important is we tend to list all of our jobs, and not absolutely, not everything is absolutely necessary. Remove the irrelevant jobs from your list. If you're applying to product management and you work in as a teacher, maybe that's not very applicable unless you actually did something related to product management. Maybe you have 10 years of experience. Don't add your summer internships when you were in college or in high school. And I know this sounds very obvious, but trust me, people tend to do this. And what this is going to help you with listing only the relevant jobs is that the hiring manager or the recruiters will look at your resume and identify that every single role that you put there actually has some relevancy into the job that you're applying to. Choose quality over quantity all the time. So make sure that you only list only the very important jobs that are related to the role that you're applying to. Another thing that I've seen a lot is the summary. And so don't add, one paragraph of a summary. I typically don't recommend to add a summary at all, but if you want to add something, one or two lines is okay, but don't go beyond that. What's more important are your accomplishments, not your summary. And this is I would say, the number one mistake that I've seen in the past hundreds of resumes that are reviewed, people adding a long summary at the beginning of their resume. A second of the top mistakes that I've seen is writing a job description instead of accomplishments with impact, and also writing accomplishments without writing the impact. It's super important that you don't forget that you don't add the job description. Add an accomplishment and put an impact to that accomplishment. Another thing that I've seen as a mistake is having a bad format. Again, many designs make the content unreadable or too distracting, and you actually want your interviewer to not be your recruiter to not be distracted by colors or shapes and forms and all that stuff. Spelling mistakes. It's incredibly important that everything is perfect. It shows that you care about the processes. It shows that you're paying attention. And sometimes we read it so many times that we don't see those anymore. So ask a friend, a family, a coworker, ask somebody to look at your resume and see if they can spot any of these mistakes. And finally, the irrelevant jobs and no tailoring mistake, which means that, again, make sure that you only include the relevant jobs to the one that you're applying to and tailor your resume. Yes, this means that you will actually have many resumes, very similar, but certainly look at the job posting and look at the skills. And when you look at the skills that they're putting there, look at your resume and see where those skills can fit. Change words here and there. This will not only help you, yes, with an automated system that's it's scanning resumes, but also when hiring managers and recruiters look at your resume, they'll identify those skills that they're actually looking for. So definitely do a tailoring. One resume for multiple job postings is only going to decrease your chances of getting the callback. Many resumes, each one tailored to each job posting, is going to increase your success in terms of getting a callback and getting that interview into, in this case, product management. So, are you ready to apply now that you work on your resume, now that you know what are the top mistakes? Well, I actually have a little bit of news for you. There's plenty of studies, there's a lot of surveys, but most of them reveal that actually the majority of the jobs are found through networking, not by just applying. If you just apply to jobs with your resume, you're playing a numbers game. You apply to, this is a made completely made up numbers, but you apply to 1,000, to 1,000 job postings to get 20 interviews to get one offer, and or it could be 10,000 or it could be 100,000. It's not the best strategy to just apply with your resume. Your resume is just one part of it, and it has to be perfect, but it's just one part of the application process. So let's talk about networking. And particularly, let's talk about networking over LinkedIn. It's incredibly important. Let's start with this. Have you ever gone to a networking event? In the past could be in a venue, today could be virtual, and you actually never said hi to anyone? Now think of a party. You go to a party and you are in a corner and you don't say hi to absolutely anyone. But the next day after the party, you actually go and add everybody on Facebook and LinkedIn and Snapchat and TikTok and whatever. It's going to be a little bit awkward. People may not know who you are, and think of it in the other perspective. Maybe you went to the party and you talked to everyone, and somebody that was in the corner that you have no clue who they are sends you a friend request. It's going to be awkward. You have no idea who they are. You don't remember them, and you don't know why they are connecting. The same thing happens on these networking events. The same thing happens on LinkedIn. And what I mean by that is, when you request to connect with someone and you just send or either no message or a message that says, I'd like to add you to my professional network, is the equivalent of going to a party, being in a corner, or going to a networking event, don't saying hi to anyone, and then adding them on all social media platforms. And I'm sure that at this point, if you're sending a ton of connection requests, and you're either not adding a message or just saying, I'd like to add you to my professional network, probably the success rate is incredibly low. I don't have proof, but I'm sure that you have your own proof that not a lot of people actually reply or accept your connection request. So how do we turn that around? How do we actually make sure that people respond to our message or accept our connection request? Well, number one, always send a personalized message. The chances of other people responding to your message will increase if you actually make it personal. How do you make it personal? Well, you can look at, maybe they shared some articles recently, maybe they actually gave a talk online or a podcast or something. Maybe you really like how they transition from the past three companies into their current role, and tailor that message to them. You could say something like, hey, I really loved the show that you did on this platform, this video, this podcast, and I love to learn more about it. Or you can say, hey, you have a very impressive career, I saw how you transitioned from this to that and read this article, and I thought it would be really interesting to learn more from you about it. Either way, look for that way to personalize the message to them. The second tip that I can give you is, over that first message or through the course of your exchanges, Do not ask for a job, rather ask for guidance. It could be incredibly awkward to receive a message, and just think about it. You receive a message one day saying, "Hey, do you have a job for me?" And I know this sounds ridiculous, but I've received a lot of messages like that. And what I usually reply to them is saying, "Hey, I'd love to share some feedback on your approach because I'm guessing your strategy is not working as you would expect." And I give you the same advice. Ask for guidance. Ask for a coffee chat. Ask to hear about their experience, about their journey. Don't ask for a job. The job will get there. That's our ultimate goal, but you have to make it step by step by step before you can actually get to the goal of getting the job. So the first thing is just ask for guidance. And then the last thing on how to find or how to connect with someone is find common ground. You can search for people with whom you share things like the same college, the same city, transitioning from the same company. When I joined Microsoft, I talked to a ton of people, and I found them by finding people who went to my same college or who transitioned from my previous company to Microsoft, or who shared some interest with me. And I had a lot of people who actually replied to my messages and were willing to share their experience. And I never asked them for a job. The referrals came later on as I was going through the process, but it was never the first thing about the job or the referral. It was always about learning from them, their journey, and what advice they would give to someone like me who was trying to make the same transition. Here's an extra tip to find out who is actually hiring on LinkedIn. So go to your LinkedIn page and search for the word hiring. And you can, actually have, other things like hiring product manager, hiring program manager, hiring project manager, whatever you're interested in. But for now, let's say product manager. So hiring product manager. And once you have the hiring product manager, and extra tip at Microsoft, we are called program managers. After you search for it, you're going to filter for content. You're going to see the different filters apply. You click on content, and once you are there, you click on all filters and you select the companies that you're interested in. In this case, it could be Microsoft, Google, Apple, Salesforce, whichever company you're interested in. And once you apply those filters, you can, here's some, my personal recommendation, sort by the latest. And this will show you who actually posted that they're looking for somebody to join their team. And so you can see that, come join my team here at Xbox or at Windows or at whatever team they're hiring. And you can actually reach out to this person and say, "Hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn. Here's why, I think I could be a good fit for your team. I love to chat more." And it's actually it's there are more chances that this person will actually reply to you because they're looking for somebody to join their team. Same in the row in the example here below, you can reach out to this other person and just say, "Hey, I saw your post on LinkedIn. I'm super interested. Here's why. Again, I could be a good fit for your team, and I'd love to chat more." And so that way, it's a combination of, yes, you're finding somebody on LinkedIn who's hiring, a little bit of the history, you can chat with them about a job because they actually posted about the job. But if they did not post it, once again, don't ask for a job, seek guidance first. All right. So we talked about the resume, we talked about networking on LinkedIn. Let's talk about now how you can become a product manager, whether you have a technical or a non technical background. To do this, it's all about transferable skills. And I'm sure that you've heard this plenty of times before. But what exactly do we mean by transferable skills? It's not like, oh, because I, met with a customer, therefore I do already have transferable skills that are applicable to product management. Yes and no. For that, you have to understand what product managers do, and you have to see how you tailor your resume to tell that story. Same as during the interview, how you tell that story to make sure that the interviewer knows that you do have those transferable skills that could make you a good product manager coming from any background. So here's a couple of things that you can do in your current job if you believe that it's hard for you to find those transferable skills on something that applies directly into product management. So first of all, going here at the top, if there are product managers at your own company, First of all, network with them, and this is set up coffee chats, talk with them about their day-to-day jobs, understand, and your ultimate goal is, as you build a relationship, you're going to help them on small tasks. And so you could ask them if to see if you can attend a few meetings, take meeting notes, start taking a little bit of ownership under their guidance, because in time you will either have the stories that you need when you are applying to a job, internal or external, or you will actually can be asked to be part of the PM team after you show that you can actually take on a few responsibilities here and there. I do know of a few friends of mine who actually became product managers this way, and so I thought it was a very, very clever way of making a smooth transition into a PM team. So this is something that you can do if there are product managers currently at your company. Another thing that you can do is you can actually start the Scythe project. This is look at the processes that your team does every day and identify a pain point. Maybe there's something in the ticketing system, in the reports, maybe there's something in an email workflow to get 20 approvals, something. And don't treat it as just a Scythe project that you complete in a week and that's it. Actually treat it as if you were the product manager. Define the vision. What is the vision? Talk to your customers, interview them, and your customers again are going to be your coworkers or another business group. Whatever that pain point is, talk to those customers, talk to those users, and find out what are those pain points. Set the vision of what's the project, what's the product, what's the solution, and then put a business case together. Why should this project be done? In other words, how much money or how much time is it going to save? Who are the users? What's the impact? All of this is going to help you. Maybe there's a cost analysis or a COGS analysis that you can actually do on this project. And then set the roadmap. What are those milestones for this project? And what is going to be your MVP or your phase one or that initial step into making this a reality, a real project? In time, a couple of things can happen. You start taking ownership of this project, it becomes bigger, and the team asks you to be the official product manager and gives you the title for this project. Or it gives you enough material for you to take and once again show those transferable skills in your resume and also during interviews. But what if you are in school and you want to do you want to do something, or you're at work and you don't want to do something at work? So, a side project out of college or work for non-technical, it's not about learning how to code an app. And if you're a technical person, it is not just about coding an app. What it means is that it's all about the stories that you're going to tell and the transferable skills you're going to gain from this experience. Very similar to what I was mentioning in the previous slide. Number one, identify a pain point. This could be in your neighborhood, in your family, in some friends. Maybe somebody always forgets about something when they go grocery shopping, or maybe your family is struggling with some email chains or something in the computer. Whatever it is, find a problem and act as a product manager for this project. Document every step of the process. It's going to be extremely helpful later on. Talk to your customers, talk to your users, create a business case around it, and set the vision for the product. Once again, this is not just about creating an app and call it a day. This is about treating it as if it were your product and you are the product manager. Once you have an analysis on this is what you'll do and you have the data to back it up, once again, interviews with your users or surveys or some research online, then you're going to either code the project if you're a technical person. If you're a non-technical person, you can learn how to code and then do it, which could be fun for you. And if coding is not for you, which again is not a skill that is absolutely a must-have for product managers, you can actually outsource it. And from all of this experience, you can also tell how you interact with engineers and how as a product manager you work with them on an agile methodology or an agile way to deploy this app or website or whatever your product is. So don't think that just because you did not code the app, everything is lost. Once you have a prototype or something to test, actually go out and invite users to test your app, website, project, whatever it is, and document absolutely everything. Once you're done, use this story when you're talking to recruiters, with hiring managers, post it on LinkedIn, invite people to, critique, to give you feedback and continue evolving the project. This is what transferable skills is all about. It's about how do you tell the story of what you're doing today at your current work, or a side project at work, or a side project outside of work, how you're gaining those skills, soft and hard skills, and how those transfer into product management. So any of these things that I've mentioned before can help you make an easier transition or get into product management. And you want another option? Well, there's another option, which is you can attend grad school or do an MBA. And if you're currently an MBA student or you're in grad school, well, you can do plenty of things besides, of course, your internship and trying to get that full-time offer, which is you can volunteer with local startups who are looking for product managers, and that's going to give you plenty of PM experience. You can work with school clubs and different initiatives about product management, like creating workshops, talking to alumnus of your school, and you can actually work on side projects to improve something about school and do it PM style. So everything that I said before apply to your school. It's all about transferable skills and about the stories that you're telling to your recruiters and to the interviewers. And one last thing that I'll say is that if you're ready to apply, that is awesome. Don't forget that getting into product management, it's not a sprint and it's a marathon, and it takes time and it takes effort. For some of you, it will take weeks, sometimes days, and sometimes it will take many, many years of experience. For many of us, it was just like that, many years of experience, and then doing a master's program. So um, definitely work hard for it and reach out to your network. Make sure that you are leveraging everything that you learned today about networking to learn more about product management and apply those skills and tell those stories that will get you into the product management role. And so, with that in mind, once again, my name is Diego Granados. I'm currently a Microsoft PM working on AI and machine learning. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel where I give PM advice and interview prep. Here are a few examples where I explain the difference between project, program, and product management, how to answer product case questions, what is product management, and I have a series on interviews where, in this case, for example, I interviewed a senior PM at Amazon and many more coming. And so with that in mind, thank you so much for attending today's session. I hope you really enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.